have their own sort of cadence. Because like, so Jim, so when you met Jim was very well-spoken, and he was a man of very few words, and incredibly focused, and he just kind of talked like this. Oh, is this the coffee from the French place Louisville or less? Because I like theirs. I like the German pastry better. It's wonderful. But I don't like the pastry and the coffee.
Very nice. Let me switch mics here. This one's a little taller. That way you don't have to.
And you get the curve.
Yeah, good. Yeah, there we go.
I said, all right, well, I don't want to talk like this the entire time. All right.
How you doing?
I have no idea.
You have no idea how you're doing. No clue at all.
Actually, I'm always doing great. I draw a pig, a frog, and a bear. I mean, how wonderful is that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Much higher either. Okay. So you've had a good weekend, huh?
Yeah. Well, this is almost a home game for me.
Yeah, really.
Nashville.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm originally from Connecticut, Red Sox Nation, Yankees suck. And Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks sucks. Okay, anyway, but I moved to Nashville, about 16 years ago. Yeah, so I've got about a 3-hour drive home, so that's nice.
Oh, that's good. So you don't have to deal with the airports and everything. That's
Not this time.
not this time around. That's
But
really.
it doesn't, I mean, hey, I ain't worked on the highway,
Yeah.
in the rain. Good gig.
No doubt. So you were born in Connecticut, right?
Supposedly, yes. In Winsted, Connecticut, it used to be a town. It was actually a thriving lumber and hydroelectric kind of town. And then in 1955, hey, I was born on January 30th, 1957, so I had nothing to do with this. There was a 30-foot wall of mud. Again, I had nothing to do with it. It was in 1955, and it basically took the town out.
Oh.
And so my mom was essentially a single mom, and that's why we could live there. It was real cheap, and most of the places were condemned and stuff like that. And she was a waitress at a diner. And child care was take your kid to work and hope you don't get fired.
Oh yeah.
And so she would open up the funnies because they got there for free, and she could draw circles. And she was a good drawer, but of course, there was no shop, for a woman being a cartoonist in the 40s and 50s and stuff. They worked in the ink and paint department. Even if you were like Mary Blair, and a genius, there just wasn't, Plus, she had another one on the way, and she had me, and I'm sure I was a handful. And so she would open up the funnies, and she'd give me paper, and that's what she'd say, here, Dad, draw this. She would point to Beer Bailey or Pogo, and she said, draw this. And she'd show them the circles and stuff. And we couldn't afford, the dollar to go see Peter Pan at the theater, or as the Gallagher brothers would say, because we're in Kentucky Theater, or moving picture house. So, it'd be $2 for us to go see Peter Pan. And she'd describe it, all of its majesty and wonder, and then she'd say, but God, then it's all over. And she'd say, so all the kids that got to go, we go into the drugstore, and they want this little book, that little golden book. So I think of own it forever. She says, Guy, yeah. And then she'd show me, Dumbo or Peter Pan or whatever it was, and for 19 cents. And she'd show me how to draw it, and I'd be 2 years old. She'd say, now read it to me. And honestly, by the time I guess I was 2.5, I was reading. Just making stuff up, and then eventually, things started getting put together. And I was 3 years old, and she let me walk into the appliance store on the street, because we didn't have TV at 4 o'clock every day. Get down there at 4 o'clock, step outside. I know it sounds like Mickey Rooney in Boys Town. I'm sorry. It was real. I'd stand outside the appliance store window, and Walter Lance would come on TV with Woody Woodpecker, and he would show you how to draw. And holy crap. Wow, he drew circles just like Mom. And that was it. And I know Dad, so Roy Rogers taught me how to be a man.
Roy Rogers. years.
Yeah, taught me how to do him. Walter Lance and my mom taught me how to draw. And Ted Williams taught me focus. Yeah, Mr. 406.
Yeah.
Yeah, kaboom. Greatest hitter ever. Taught me focus.
Excellent. Well, I mean, it must have done you well because you're a jack of all trades. I mean, you know, you're
Yeah,
a musician, a songwriter.
I know,
artist.
I can't keep a job.
That was, but no, that just means that, you know, all that imagination that you had as a kid, you know, from instead of going to the movies and seeing Peter Pan, but having the book in front of you, and you were probably making your own scenes and everything, you know, and that was a wellspring of
Well, you know,
creativity.
sometimes innocence and ignorance is a great gift. You know, the world was a much smaller place. You had to figure things out. I didn't know that you didn't write all those words. You know, what were you supposed to draw if you didn't have a story? I mean, honestly, when I was very, very little, my mom told me I used to try to copy the print in the book. I thought you had to do that. You know, that's why I'm very literate. I mean, you know, I didn't know any better. And since it always said Walter Lance, or Walt Disney's, or Walter Lance's, I just assumed, you know, you did it all. So I did.
Well, I mean, it served you well. I mean, of course, it started, you know, in the 70s with your first job with, Super Colonel Comics,
Yeah.
or Weekly Reader, right?
Well, actually, the first thing I ever got to do, and I promised Francois I'd keep it secret when I was 16, and so I did. He passed away about 9 years ago, so it's okay to say now. No, when I was like 16 years old, I saw Whitman Publishing, a little door said Whitman Publishing, right near Western Publishing.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I was in New York all the time, even though I lived on the poor side of Connecticut. It took me like 3.5 hours to get in the train and all that. I used to go. $100, and when that ran out, I'd go home. And I had about $10 to go. So I went with the publisher and I said, well, hey, that's, you know, Golden Books, coloring books. That's Walter Lance and Walt Disney. I'm going in there. And I did. And a man named John Spolardo was in there. And he said, well, let me look at your stuff. And he did. And he said, that's a pretty good Pluto. That's pretty good Goofy. Hey, that Donald Duck's pretty much right on the nose. And he started showing me some style guides. I'm like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah.
Somebody else has drawn them. This is awesome. You know. He said, you know, can you draw 22 of these? I said, yes, sir. He said, can you do it in a week? I said, no, sir. He said, you need more time? I said, no, sir. He said, well, what's going on? I said, well, I'm staying over the Y, above the Port Authority, and I still have enough for a night. Except there was like this wall, like an 800-pound giant black man who was walking down the hall toward my room, and he was taking the door off. So I have everything on me. He's probably waiting. I can't go back there. So I have to go home. Can I draw it now? He said, I think he really appreciated mine. He said, you want to draw the 22 pages today? And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, well, where do you think you're going to do this? I said, well, there's a park out there. I have a briefcase I can draw on it. And what are you going to ink with? I said, flare pens. He said, flare pens? I said, well, that's what these are done with. He said, wow, that's pretty good. And so he said, well, tell you what, sit at the desk. I did the whole thing in a day. He waited. I finished up about 10:30 at night. He waited, you know, I did it all. And then it was too late to go cash a check. He took $500 out of petty cash, had me sign back the check. I was now working for Walt Disney.
That's
For real,
amazing.
yeah, for real.
What was the book?
It was a coloring book with, you know, Pluto and Goofy and
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know if it ever came out or not. But the thing was, when you signed a piece of paper, of course you didn't sign it. It was Walt Disney. I had no problem with that. I mean, Walt Kimmel didn't sign it. Walt Kelly didn't sign it. All the Walts didn't sign it. You know, and I was cool with that. I mean, I'm learning Disney. And but I don't know. But the deal was, they said, you know, until it comes up, you know, he said, hey, you can't say anything about this. You know, meaning like, that until it came out, I guess.
Yeah.
It's in it, but I never knew if it came out or not, so I just never said anything about it. The funny thing was, when I became like the king of New York, you know, I was doing everything for Jim and everything, and I went into King Features. I'm now the Muppet guy and everything, and I'm like on the Tonight Show and stuff. I walk in with the King Features bullpen. There's John Solaro. He was writing Drawing Tarzan. And he was running the bullpen with Frank Shelley, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Fancy Pants, you got 500 on you?" God, I loved him. I loved him. But then, yeah, then I did a comic called Super Colonel, and it was a funny animal comic for a weekly reader, and I was doing very well with it. We had like 350,000 readers. I was writing and drawing it, and I hired my lazy brother Brad. It's not a Everly Brothers thing, it's worse than that. No, I'm just kidding. No, I hired Brad out of Carmine Farms. You know, we were selling slushies and stuff, and cigarettes, and he came in, I taught him on color and stuff. And when I was doing that, and when Mark Walker saw my work, and that's how I got the job with Jim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or Walker, really.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, more, see, Jim, you notice Jim never had a sequel. Didn't like that. You know, he had series, and he had movies. You know, because none of the Muppet movies are sequels.
Right.
You know, they're all onto themselves. Think about it. You know, Jim liked to do the next thing.
Right.
And so I think about his second year of Muppet Show, he said, you know, I'm not going to do this forever. Let's find somebody to write and draw this thing, or a team to write and draw this thing for newspapers all around the world. And so it can be in front of everyone every day, and I'll do the movies and the piggy specials and whatnot, and we'll just do other things, you know, like Dark Crystal, And I had no idea, of course, I was not in that stratosphere. I mean, you know, I was happy drawing the comic and stuff, and I was trying to get a big gig of it. Like the Muppets, are you kidding? And Morgan Walker had a museum of cartoon art on the New York line, Connecticut line, and I was down there so much, they thought I lived there. I was like 2 hours away, they thought I lived in the neighborhood. And I was always Will Ham, you know, the voices and stuff, and I rock band and you know, class model. And so I would do talks there. If the famous cartoonist that was supposed to be there that Sunday couldn't actually be there. And Mark caught one of them, and he said, you know, you're pretty good. The only problem is no one knows who you are or what the heck you do. So bring some of your artwork down, put it in the antique room there, the lobby, and we'll have you actually schedule, you know, talk. And he remembered the artwork, I guess, because he was out golfing with Bill Yates, the head of King. And Bill said, we're about to lose the development deal for the biggest comic strip in the history of comics, the Muppet Show. We've tried 200 people on different teams and stuff over 2 years, and they're crazy. They don't like anyone on work with us. What's that? A frog and a pig? This is hippie kid, hangs out at the museum, does funny animals pretty good, call him. And Bill did. And I tried out and he liked what I did. And I had no idea what I was doing. He liked it anyway. He asked me for more stuff, I gave it to him. It was oxygen to me. That was the coolest thing. And I wanted it so bad. And I knew I wasn't going to be the best. But I could be the person that tried the hardest. You know, Ted Williams, focus. I focused. And I drew for a year. All the time. I kept sending it in. And while I was doing Super Colonel and everything else, my other kids on the way, I had a kid on the way and all that. And I just kept going because they didn't tell me not to. And then the phone rang one day, it was Jerry Jewell.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, wait a minute. Like Juhl, like on the crawl, like at the end of the, he must be thinking, what a rube. It's like, hey, you know, things to do, people to meet, okay? Let's move it. Because he just called and he said like, and he started saying, hey, so, you're Guy Gilchrist? Okay, listen. So how about if Gonzo finds a bunch of Earthworms and says, let's make them sort of like a chorus line, like the Rockettes. And every time they kick their one leg, of course, they fall down. I'm going, that is brilliant. Oh, hi. It's for you. Okay. I said, that's but Mr. Jewell, why are you telling me this stuff? He says, well, didn't Michael come? And Jane come? Oh, you've had the job for like a month. What? And I'm like, oh my God! But I didn't say that. I'm just like, no. Yes, sir. Focus. Yes, sir. Okay. How about if we call them the Wormettes? He goes, that's great. I'm writing with Jerry Jewell. Okay, here we go. And that was it. And we talked for 2 hours. And of course, it's being my man, sir. And then I walked out of the garage. I walked down the house. Hey, guess who's writing and drawing the Muppets? Of course, no one believed me. And that's how it started.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I had no idea you were working with Jerry Jewell in that.
Yeah, well, only at the beginning.
Yeah, but you collaborate.
Yeah, well, he taught me how to write it. I mean, this is a big deal. This is, Jim turning over everything, the keys to the kingdom to a kid. Me and Steve, youngest guys he ever hired, we're both
Steve
Whitmer. We were like the youngest guys that Jim ever hired. I mean, Richard was real young when he hired him too. He had a habit, of hiring, and he liked the energy, I think, but, and he could kind of, like Steve this, I overheard Michael Frith and Jim talking, because Michael told me to leave, but I walked real slow. So I overheard some of it, and was like, okay. Basically, I kind of could figure out what Jim was saying from London by what Michael was saying over here.
Yeah.
And it was basically like, okay, I got a hold of Steve, he's on a leash over here. I got him. Now, Guy, you gotta watch him. It wasn't we were bad kids or anything, but we were incredibly enthusiastic.
Sure, they were
and we were so in love with the idea of being in this universe, that we would do anything. I mean, our hearts were exploding all the time, and we just wanted to please Jim. And so, Michael had the leash for Guy, and Jim took care of Steve on his own. Yeah.
Wow. So you were doing this without style guides, right?
Yeah, there was nothing.
That's amazing because there's just an art to the Muppet eyes.
Yeah, it's called the Magic Triangle.
Yeah, the Magic Triangle.
Yeah.
Right.
And Michael taught me it. At 117 East 69th Street in New York. That was the center of the universe. That was the brownstone that Jim owned, and we were down in the basement is the original, Muppet shop. And of course, there was one over in London and all of that, where they would fix stuff and everything, and then one in Toronto when they did Fraggles and stuff. But, it was downstairs. And there were a couple of art directors down there, and then Michael was on the second floor, and Jim was all the way at the top. And so, I was drawing them, and then Michael took me downstairs and showed me, the phone, and was explaining that, you're holding a ball, you're holding a ball of foam, and then, so, this is Fozzie. So we're taking this rubber ball here, and we're pinning it here, so it's not straight like this, it's going on here. And then we're gonna turn the eyes in this way just a little bit because they're on this arc over. And the eyes and the nose become the magic triangle. And I had already kind of had that by, drawing animated stuff and watching Walter Lantz, and Walter Lantz being like my mentor since I was 10 years old. He wrote me a letter when I was 10 years old, told me I was going to be a successful cartoonist if I never gave up. It meant the world to me. So I kind of got it. And I think that that idea of life, you know, within the cartoon that Jim taught me, Michael taught me, is why all those other characters that I wound up doing, once I did them, I kept on doing them. You know, folks liked my way of doing them. Some don't, you know, but I had my way of doing it. Everything was cute, you know. Somebody said I was a king of cute. I went, I like that. You know, I like cute girls. That's good. Okay, I like that. And really and truly, you know, like I loved like the Creature from the Black Lagoon and, you know, Boris Karloff and everything. But every time I tried to draw them, they were adorable. You know, it's like, I mean, wouldn't I wind up drawing, you know, yeah, right, instead of drawing, you know, like Boris Vallejo or Frazetta, right? I had to count. It was perfect.
Well, I always liked how you put your distinctive style, like with Kermit, for example, the little wrinkles, you know.
Yeah, well, and that was stolen, as is everything of mine, from Walt Kelly.
Okay.
It was, if you look at Walt Kelly's inking, you'll see that a lot of times he drew a very small mouth, and then he'd have like a cute little cheek, and then he'd draw these three little lines, or two or whatever, in the cheek, and actually, you know, rounded the face, made the smile bigger without actually making the mouth bigger. I thought it was adorable. Michael drew the same way. I already drew that way. Michael was way better at it than me, but I was there, and I was inking, and he drew with a blue pencil, because that's all he had to do. You know, he was creating the characters. And so, you know, Jim and Michael called me the magic brush, because I was the one that, you know, took the pens and the brushes out and started knocking stuff out. Because, yeah, like you said, there was no guide. And so, and when we first started doing a strip, it really looked horrible, because I was trying to draw the puppets as the puppets, and Michael was showing me how to draw the puppets as the puppets. But then I started to realize, and he started realizing it, and Jim did too, and I mentioned it to everyone, because they were all looking at everything. And I was saying, like, can I animate them more? Because we have an orchestra in a sardine can. You know, the show has color and voices and music and a guest star and everything. I have 3 or 4 black and white panels this big. So can I do a few things, like make his eyes look, Kermit's eyes a little bit bigger, can I do this, can I do that? And little by little by little, they let me do it. And little by little, I got the hang of it. Because remember, I didn't know how to do anything. And except probably tell jokes, you know, and more Dick Brown and Bill Yates. And then I, you know, anything I'd steal from Johnny Hart, you know, obesity and stuff. That's how I learned, you know, how to write stuff. But I was okay, you know, at writing stuff, but I had to learn how to write stuff on a daily basis, you know, like with a punchline.
How long did it run?
Like 5.5 years. And it would have run much longer, but I took it down. But people say, like, why did you quit it? I didn't. Okay, here was the idea. We were having troubles with King Features because I wanted to do stories, and they didn't want that. See, this was before the internet, and so you couldn't go and read a month's worth. Okay, you know, you couldn't, you know, chug it all down at once. And you know, we had little paperbacks that would come out, but the thing was, they were scared of continuity, so they only let me do 1 week of jokes that were, you know, related, yeah. And I wanted to do wacky stuff. Like, I wanted to be telling a story and then all of a sudden have a Muppet news flash. And I mean, you know, and then have, you know, animal eat the paper that day. So there actually was no gag, just him eating stuff. And, yeah, and I mean, and I wanted, like, you know, Kermit to, you know, when he was new to the strip, and I did some of these. You know, I had Kermit come on, and he was upside down. And And he said, oh, wait a minute. Okay, and then he said something, sorry, new cameraman. And then he was up, you know. And I'd have him walking along and, you know, smack into the panel.
Those are great
Yeah, you know, these are comics, you know, it's tough getting used to this new media, you know, and stuff like that. And they took a few of those. But, you know, that was the Muppets being the Muppets, making fun of their media. And they let us do that. But then I wrote a Fraggle Rock strip that never saw it, except Jim, Bill, Jerry, Michael, etc. And I drew it all in pencil. I did a month of it. And then there was the Muppet special that had, you know, the Fraggles, all the characters in one. And I said, this is our new strip. Let's do this, let's do this. Jim said yes, Michael said yes, King said yes, then King said no. And that was it. And so I was going to do what I was wanted to do. And we thought we could do it. And it looked like it was going to be okay. And then, so we were ending the strip. And then once you announce you're ending it, it ends. And so it ended. And then King didn't do the other thing, which would have been really, really cool. And if I was ever going to do a comic strip ever again, which I probably wouldn't ever, you know, because I did Nancy for like 23 years. But if I was ever going to be coaxed into even doing a miniseries, it would be that thing that's gone, that I didn't get a chance to really do. And I know you want to see it, and I want to show it to you. I don't know where the heck the pages are. They're somewhere in the basement of Cheryl's house.
Oh.
I mean, who knows, man?
Oh, man.
It was really cool, though. You know, and I did a panel of the babies, you know. I had so much stuff that you guys, like, you just don't know.
Never
You
got
don't
to
know
see.
about, yeah.
Well, speaking of the Muppet Babies, how did that get all started? You're involved. Okay.
Again, just a stupid thing. So, Michael called me. FedEx had just been invented. MTV had just been invented. Hey, you guys saw Muppets Second Hand? If you haven't, why are you here? Okay. All right. But anyway, okay. Hey, let's show it. Okay. But you know, there's that Muppet Babies scene, the segment, right? Okay. And that was. So MTV had just basically been invented. This is a couple years before the Muppet Babies that showed up, okay? And so it was very avant-garde, you know, I think we're learning Japanese, I think I'm learning Japanese, I really think so. And then, wow, Pat Benatar, cool. Okay, so, and you know, Madonna running around with no clothes on, it said the locker with that, you know, and all that stuff. And this was like wild stuff, right? And so Jim thought it'd be funny to do a 1950s song for MTV. And then they all kind of were sitting around going, yeah, but if it's 1950s, then they'd be babies. So so they started, like, you know, because we're all straight. So Michael called and said, hey, you know, we're sculpting, here's like he showed me a little bit of latex that was a baby Kermit head and a baby Rolf head. And they took Polaroids, and by the way, those were instant pictures that you would come out of the bottom of that camera. And he threw them into a brand new thing called FedEx, and they would be there that day. It was like a Monday or something, and I'd be there Monday evening. And here was the only problem. So he said, so Michael says, so I'm sending you over these things, and take a look at them, and I'm so drawn everyone as a cartoon baby, you know, because I was drawing them Muppets as cartoons every day anyway.
Right.
And their heads were bigger and their eyes were bigger and they kind of looked like babies anyway. And I was drawing it and I said, well, you know, but Michael, you know, Samuel and Waldorf will still be 39. He says, Guy, stop writing. Listen, this is important. Yes, Michael. Yes. Guy, draw as many of these things as you can. Write your stuff. Focus on the big six. First the big four, then go up by two, then da 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 da. Guy, for as many of these things as you can. Write whatever you want, do whatever you want, do this, make them all babies. Get them to me like Thursday at 10 at night in the morning, something like that. It was like, continuing like a day and a half. And then get on a train from Connecticut, go to New York. Because the thing was, and Michael's instructions were very specific. Don't flirt with Debbie downstairs. When you get upstairs to my office, do not flirt with Patricia. Patricia Munson was like Anne Margaret. Don't look directly at the sun. Oh my God, $1 million for that sweater. Anyway, so Guy, don't flirt with Patricia. Walk straight into my office and put that envelope on my desk. It has to be there by 8:50, Guy, a.m. I need that. And here's why. Because he had to walk across the way to Al Gottesman, who was in legal. He's the lawyer. And get that stamped on, and go over to David Laser and get that okayed and everything, because at 10 or 10:30 or whatever it was, Jim would be at that cafe on Lex, 2 blocks away, having a beignet and having his coffee. And if Jim liked what was in the envelope, we'd have a television show. And there you go.
So that's it, huh?
I still flirted with Patricia, I got that. You know I'm gonna do it. I got nowhere.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, why are we
For
here?
Guy? If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Don't be shy. We're all friends here.
I guess we're not.
No questions?
No
Well,
questions.
you did some work for Dolly Parton.
Yes, and that's as horrible as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure.
Oh, what an ugly, untalented, mean woman. Sexiest angel in the entire world. One of the people that I wanted to work with my entire life. I mean, my life has been incredibly ridiculous at first. You know, I've got to work with, like, everyone. And, you know, even here, you know, I mean, for crying out loud, you know, it's like, I've known Linda Blair since, I was working horse shows and rodeos.
Really?
When I was like 18 or something. And she's a great rider, like international, like Olympics, like that great. Yes, that great of a horse rider, for real, yeah. And you know, and seeing Alice, I mean, this is just wonderful. And you find out that you have, you know, these amazing connections with people. I tell you, Richard Dreyfuss, and you know, he once had an office, like 2 offices down from Jim. And he just never met him, he was shy, he didn't want to say hi. But then he, you know, got directed by Frank Collins in Webber Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like trading Frank Collins stories. And it's like,
Funny.
yeah, and like, you just, this is a whole wonderful thing, you know, too. But anyway, Dolly, I was having dinner with Burt Reynolds. Yes, I just said that. And I mean,
Lucky
I mean, duh, I mean, it's unbelievable. And, you know, I didn't know him, you know, before, but anyway, yeah, so he invited me to dinner, and I just like blown away. And he was a great guy, and I miss him, and I miss him, and I miss him some more. And anyway,
He was a fan of your work, right? That's how.
Yes. I was doing con in Pittsburgh, and I asked the promoter, could I meet him? Because, like, you know, he was the greatest. He was the only one of my favorite actors still alive. And I was in love with Lauren Hutton, named my daughter after her. You know, we used to go to the movie again and again, just to see Lauren Hutton take her top off on the beach in Gator, you know. Yeah, there were no tapes. So you just paid $2 a lot. That's why Bert's rich. Anyway, well, he was. And he was rich in every way. When I met him, I went to shake his hand. He said, I know who you are. I read the funnies. I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, we had dinner before he left. And then, of course, he really did leave. But, you know, I had mentioned that I had heard that Dolly Parton was reaching out to me, but we sometimes lived in these velvet sort of prisons. We have very, very blessed lives, but we have agents and managers and everyone does. And, these things get put out by big corporations and stuff. And so people try to figure out how they're going to make their money before they get the talent together, because once the talent is together, it's too late. That's really kind of it. And so for like 2 years, something had been going on, and then I mentioned it to Bert. The next day, the president of Sony Music Nashville calling me from like Barbados. Hi, we'd really like you to animate some cartoons for Dolly Parton. And, I had 7 weeks instead of 2 years. I did it, 13 of them. Yeah. By the way, they're on my website and stuff. There's like 3 or 4 of them on a Guy Gilchrist production.
These are like 13 music videos.
Yeah, I got to animate like 12 new songs, and I got to do Go to Many Colors. And I got to put my mom, who had passed away that year, as her mom in the cartoon. And then it came out on her birthday. Yeah, I mean, always thank you. Yeah. And she was incredible. She was everything you always hoped for. People always ask me, what was Jim like? 1,000 times better than you hoped for. When you meet these people, and I've met many of them, the reason I get to do all the things I get to do, work for Disney, Warner Brothers, and everything all at the same time, no one can do that anymore. I'm a dinosaur. No one can say anything to me, because I shook Bob Clampett's hand and said yes. Jim's hand and said yes. Chuck Jones's hand and said yes. Ted Turner's hand, for Tom and Jerry. All this stuff. So, although everyone's fighting, they all just say, when's he gonna die?